Game planning, practice, everything that goes into the system and making it yours. The system is the system. There's a philosophy behind it. It works. It works at every level. I've run it. These guys have run it. I don't know everybody in here yet. I've seen it where teams have put in this system and the only thing they put in is run plays and the run pass options, and then they throw play action on locks, and that's the only thing they do. They have no true drop back. Okay? That's owning the system. That's mastering it and knowing what fits what you want to do and what your kids can do. We've all had linemen at the high school level that are my size. It's not very fun to play with those kids. Trust me, I know. I've had to play line before because we had a small team and I was terrible at it. All right, so adapting it to you. Okay, first thing I gotta say, I'm on the website every day. I couldn't tell if any of you have ever posted on the website. There's very little activity on the forum. There's no reason that you guys shouldn't be on the forum all the time talking to each other. It's funny because I can tell who's with what staff because you guys all sit together. You guys all run the same offense. You're in the same system. You're in the same family. You guys should be getting to know each other, sharing information, sharing contact information, and exchanging ideas. You guys are going to see more stuff that's similar than some of the stuff that him and I are going to see. We only see a 3-3 stack once a year, U of A. All right, so it's not like we have a lot of answers or a lot of film on what to do against it. We have what we do against it, which is basically the same 3 run plays anyway, but it's the same things. Is you guys see some of that stuff more than we do, and you guys need to share that. So to me, the website needs to be used more, and I guess that just is a former high school guy. I used to be on freaking different forums all the time just asking questions and talking, and all the other blogs that are out there. You have one that you have access to that other people don't have access to. And it's people that are running the same offense. So you're going to hear Zorro, even odd, or Zorro Zelda, Zorro Zulu, basically the same freaking word, one right, one left. You're going to know the sift technique on the backside tackle. You're going to know Ron Lou. You're going to know RL. Use that because there's no point in talking 6-man pass protection to a guy that wants to full slide everything when that's not what we do. Like, I know some guys are going to adapt to that, and we'll go over that, but your words and your terminology are all the same, and everybody knows them because of the website. So to me, and I'm going to stop whining about it, but to me, this needs to be used more. Like, I shouldn't be the only one posting on the dang forum trying to get conversations going, but we need to get on that a little bit more. All right, teach tapes. Teach tapes are going up. As you've seen, there's like 12 new ones. The run games ones will go up in the next week or two. Those were just finished. The run games, I think the screens, and some other ones will be up. So the teach tapes are up on everything that we're doing over the last few years, the modifications, terminology, everything. Film. To me, this is one thing. I don't know how much of the last few years film is up. I think the 2013 film is now up on the website. I don't think this year's film is up, but watch all the film. To me, this is one thing that we're responsible to our kids for. If you're going to run this offense and buy into it, watch as much of it as you can because that's how you adapt it to your kids. You see that we're going to do this against this defense. You're going to do it against this defense. There's no point in trying to come up with a new blocking scheme because you're going to see Bear this week and you saw 4-2 Sam on the line all last week. Like, watch, the film is there and everything is online for everybody, which goes right into master the system. Get to know it. Get to know what the conflict player is. That's the edge that you guys get that is not always covered in general sessions with everybody else. You know who the conflict player is. That's what the teach tapes are. We go over it all the time of creating the conflict player. You know that when we're going to run Zorro, the 6th defender in the box, Giants, 6th defender in the box, Detroit, 6th defender in the box, or on the edge is the conflict player. You guys know those terminologies and what it is. Master the system so you're not just grasping or reaching for straws. Or as Coach said, I think on 2 different occasions today, is don't just run a collection of plays. We've talked to some staffs over the last few years that said they want to run this offense. Okay, come in, we'll teach it to you, yada, yada, yada. The next week, we're hearing from one of their coaches that the guy decided he liked this package from Oregon. Okay, if you want to adapt some stuff to Oregon, okay, whatever. But don't just go from wanting to run this, spending your entire offseason learning this offense, and then the first week adding 25 plays from the Oregon offense. That's not the system. The system is the system, and that's the whole point of it. It's just, and I make this comparison all the time because it's how I view it from the outside and now working on the inside, is it's just like the wing tee. The wing tee was a system. They do this, I do that. They adjust to this, now I do this. It's the same way, in my opinion. Coach built the system to have answers. Ron Lou, RL, is the same as Zorro. Tackle has the different rules based off of which one it is. But everything marries together, and then you protect your plays. And to me, that comes from mastering the system. Don't just start adding stuff because you haven't mastered the system and you know what answers you have in place already. Terminology, reads, practice, philosophy. Practice to me is one of the big ones that a lot of guys don't do. How many people in here do pat and go? Every day. Can everybody vouch that they do pat and go every day? That to me is the number one thing for all of us that makes it go, is the pat and go. It is that rhythm that you're getting with your kids every day. And I know, like, I've been at schools where we've had 19 kids on the team. I can't do the pat and go that we do at UCLA. Anybody else from the small schools have to adapt their pat and go and not do it the way that we've either taught it or the way that it's done at UCLA, or question on how to get to it? Does anybody have any issues running pat and go? Whether it's equipment, facilities, whatever, everybody's able to run it every day. It needs to be run every day. Forum, already talked about that. Clients, you guys need to meet and greet, get to know each other. That's a big one in my opinion. Is there's 2 schools that we were at camp with last year. I guarantee you they were freaking 1 row apart all day today, me interacting with them. Get to know the guys in your area that run the same system. Spring practice, we're always open. Okay? We're always open. Spring practice, though, doesn't mean that guys right here can't go to a school 17 miles away, 15 miles away instead of 400 miles away, 600 miles away, and watch how they're doing it. Because they're at 2 different sized schools. Is you can watch and adapt how other schools are doing, because everybody's going to have issues within running the system because of the size of the school or facilities that they have, right? How many of you guys have been to UCLA's practice and watched us? Almost everybody? We have 80-yard practice fields. We got to adapt. The last high school I was at before I got here, we had a 75-yard practice field for 150 kids. Then the previous year, I was at a school and we had 200 kids in the program and we had like 7 or 8 full fields. We had massive space and probably some of the nicest facilities in Arizona. So to me, you got to learn to adapt your practice and your drills to what you have. Local teams, same thing. What do you want the system to do for you? Okay, this to me is where mastering the system really comes into place. Quarterback is a runner first. I know some of the guys from Arizona know the last kid that I had was a freaking stud runner. Way better than any running back we had. So we focused him as a runner. We adapted some of the runs to make him the runner. Or on zone read, we made sure that he was reading an end or the conflict player to run first. All right? There's ways to adjust it. We added the power read this year, Army and Navy, which is, Navy is the play action pass off of it. Great way to use your quarterback as the runner if he is the focal point of your offense. All right? All in. To me, all in is a big one, is you need to be all in on the system. There's too many guys that I find, and there's no fault in it because everybody's got their way of doing it, but to me the best way to be all in is be all in. We had some teams flip from other system or other things that they've been doing for a lot of years, and they went all in. Terminology, style of play, all the code words were the same. Everything is the same as what we do and what we teach you guys. Is to me, is all in is not only running the system or teaching the system to the kids, but it's you guys. It's the offensive coordinator and a position coach coming to every clinic that they can get to on an Nzone one, coming to campus every year, is they're all in on mastering what the system is. And it's not just the head coach saying, hey, this is what we're going to run, and then the coordinator backdooring him, or the line coach backdooring the coordinator on what you guys want to do. Is be all in on it. How does the staff work? This is always an issue at the high school level, right? How many guys are on campus? Awesome. We got like 3 guys that are on campus. That's the issue, right? That's the issue we've always faced. I know in Arizona that was a major issue when I got into coaching back in Arizona. We had the major freaking, not the depression, but the freaking everybody getting fired. We still haven't really recovered from it. Teachers are still out of jobs all over the place. I think my first year, almost the entire staff was on campus, except for some of the younger coaches. By the time we were done, there was like 2 coaches still on campus. So you got to find what staff you have. You have to find loyal staff that's going to come in our time off. Come in the spring when there's no practice, but they're still around helping the kids. Whether getting them to go out for track or running whatever, is you need to get your staff or find your core 4, 6 guys that are always going to be around running the system. You need to find those guys, and those are the guys that you want to teach the system to. Even if it's a young guy. You can always make a receivers coach that's the veteran that actually knows all of it. Well, you can make an inside receivers coach or a tight ends coach. And you take that young kid that's 22 that might not have a lot of experience, but is always around, that kid that's always in the back just sitting there. You can always find something for him to do. That's how I got into it. I just sat in the back of the room until they gave me something to do. All right? How big of staff do you have? All right, this is a big one, is responsibilities and proficiency in what you have. How many guys coach both sides of the ball? All right, that's always going to be an issue when you're coaching both sides of the ball. Well, do you only coach offense? Do you only coach defense? What are your rules? That's something that you guys got to go over, and it's got to be a staff discussion. You guys got to be honest about it. How committed is your staff? We were talking about that. Facilities and budget, kind of talked about that on size of fields and what you guys have. But like number of footballs, that's always an issue, right? Pat and go, getting footballs back is always an issue. Well, if you got small numbers or you have a small amount of footballs, well, don't go all the way down the field. Do it on one side and the other side. Have Coach Nzone on that hash, throwing fades that way, and the kid just runs it back to my line, and I'm throwing fades on this side and running in a circle so the ball is always back. Especially when you have a smaller amount of kids, you only need like 5 in this line and 5 in that line, right? Adapt what you have to what fits your budget, your facilities, and your number of kids. Fields, balls, bags, etc. Equipment, like a great one is just trash cans. If you want to use the old noose drill, or you need dummies to stay in there for, you don't have the freaking big heavy sandbag dummies that are 6 foot tall or whatever for the lineman to run to during screen drills. You put trash cans out there. Just have him go knock it down so you at least know that he's knowing where to go and who to hit. All right, practice format. This is a big one. How many guys in here, staffs-wise, let's see, 2 platoon. Your kids only play offense. Anybody? Couple? Okay, how many play both ways? And is it your core kid, is it like all your kids play both ways? How many of it is it like every kid has to play both ways? Okay, how many of it is that you have like 2 or 3 kids that only play offense? Okay, 2 or 3 kids that only play defense. Okay, you know, especially if the head coach is a defensive guy, they're going to play defense first, and then you might get some on offense. And yes, that's a shot at you as you're looking around. All right, so for me, like one of the big ones for this is 20 personnel, 10 personnel, all right? That's the basis of the offense. Well, give them the linebackers, right? Give them the linebackers. Marry the system. Coach is now running the total defense, so they're running a 3-4. Well, now they don't need as many defensive linemen, or they can rotate more, so now you might have a more sturdy offensive line, but you give them all the fullbacks and tight ends, okay? But then what happens with that, now you have packages. Now you take that freaking asshole that's 220 pounds of a fullback that's a linebacker, you bring him in on 3rd and short, and the only 2 plays he has to learn is Cole and lead, which is the same freaking block for him every time. Just, you go beat the shit out of that kid in front of you. Same thing, you see it from us the last few years. We've had 9 different defensive players score touchdowns. We've scored like 20-something defensive player touchdowns on offense. Miles Jack practices 9 plays a week. on offense. We use them when we need them, right? High school players are the same way. You have that really good kid, it's going to be natural to give the really good kid the ball or let him lead block on somebody. Especially, everybody's had that prick on defense that just likes hitting people. Let him play fullback a couple snaps a game. If you're only going to use black and brown or bone or any of that up back stuff, if you're only going to use it less than 10% of your game plan, why take a kid that's not really going to be really good at it, take the starting linebacker and have him learn 2 plays and run 9 snaps a game? All right, school size, always an issue. To me, this is the biggest one that needs to be done by all of us. And it's the head coaches, the guys that are on campus. If you're not on campus, it's hard for you to recruit your school, right? Unless you volunteer to coach another sport. Get out there and find other kids. Find the basketball kids, especially in this system. We have kids that don't know how to block, but they get in the guy's way and it looks like they're freaking winning, right? Recruit your school. Go the hallways and find those kids. We had a coach a few years back that I was at that freaking every boy in the freaking school he talked to about playing football. The kid couldn't tie his shoes. Somehow he had him out at practice the next day and always ended up in the running backs or the wide receiver line, normally the wide receiver line, because we had like 70 of them because the running backs coach wouldn't deal with any of them. But recruit your school. All right, in-season practice. In-season practice is different than spring ball. Does everybody here get some type of spring ball or summer ball? No? No spring ball? Okay, a little bit different. You get summer, but you don't get spring. All right. So in-season practice. Now this is some of the stuff that we did at the high school level, and I've tried to do with Coach Nzone, is whoever's running your scout team, this is where your linebacker that doesn't play offense, he is in charge of the scout team. Now he doesn't make the calls on what defense you're running, but he helps get everybody lined up. Plus he gets more reps on defense. He gets his conditioning out of the way because he's playing defense. Don't just have him sit on the sideline because he's not playing. Have him help you. But also this is where you take your younger coaches, your JV coaches, you have them run the JV scout team. Your kids are being taught your defense. Yes, you're going to have to make modifications just like we do. I went and spent time with our defensive coaches, learned our defense so I could talk to our defense. So I don't have to sit up there and every 6 seconds try to get them to read a card and then get back so we can run. Because you got to practice no huddle if you're going to run it, right? I don't have time to do that against ours. I have to be able to talk in a language that they understand. So if your defensive coverages are blue, silver, and black, learn them. If you're the guy that's running the scout team, learn them. Learn your defensive terminology so you can run it faster. Or if you have a really smart defensive player that's the only thing he does, have him run the scout team. Be like, hey, today we're going 2x2 all day. I want these 2 coverages, just mix them up. And leave him in charge of it until you get into situational stuff. Have him run all of it. Because then you get the younger kids, especially if you're at a small school and it's almost all JV kids running the scout team, they're getting to practice, that's their practice period. All right? Just like those freaking, all right, you've seen the U and now the U part 2, right? What was it? 61 of the 85 total players on that team ended up in the NFL at one point or another, whether they played a game or not, they ended up in the NFL. 47 got drafted and like 20-something were first-round draft picks or whatever it was off that team. What do you think their practice was like? Kellen Winslow III was on scout team the entire time, right? One of our best players this year was on scout team because he was redshirting and torched our defense all year. All right? Take that time. If you have younger players, teach them your stuff. Don't just hold up a card and tell them to go do that. Because then they're just memorizing a card. They're not learning whether it's offense or defense. Practice smart with that stuff. Scout team. And then within that, not just scout team, but practice plans within that. If I know that I'm going to have a hard time or I don't have a lot of coaches and I need 2 of them to signal and the head coach is trying to evaluate all of it, we got 1 coach left. Okay, we'll set up your practice plan that way. Run 2x2 for 12 straight plays. Then go 3x1. That way your defense doesn't have to move very much. That's how coach does it. We're gonna run our dual series of plays or our 10 personnel series of plays, and then we're gonna run our 20 personnel series of plays. So my scout team kids know how to line up pre-snap every time. They know that it's going to be either strong right or strong left, but it's going to be 2x1 or 2x2. Then the next day it'll be 3x1 and 2x2 again. All right, spring and summer practice. Okay, Arizona gets like spring ball. We do a lot of our stuff when I was there. We did a lot of it on air my last few years. So we literally just worked on tempo, reading signals, and installing the offense. We'd run a 15-minute team period where it's just on air, and the center would just move left hash, middle, right hash. Middle, left hash, middle, right hash, just back and forth in every 5 yards, and we would just go up and down the field. Every time we got to an end zone, the next unit went on and we came right back with them. And it was all signals all the time. You have to work on your signals, right? Which we'll get into in the next session. Next little topic is on signaling and terminology. You got to work on that. Air. Okay? Practice must. Pat and go. Talked about it at the beginning. Has to be a must. Team takeoff. All right? Team takeoff, whether it's just running 3 plays. Okay, I'm going to line up, I'm going to run trio, 95, Linda. And when first team's going to do it, run all the way to the end zone. Second team's going to do it, run all the way to the end zone. Third team's going to do it. Even if you have no left tackle because you're out of bodies, the third quarterback is going to go, run the play, and run through the end zone. Do it. Tempo drill, this is one that we started taking off with this year, is they're going to get a series of plays, whether it's like repeating the same play or running the same play but flipping it, so it's green, tear, Zorro, odd, comet, but then we're going to move them to the other hash and they're going to get a signal to flip the exact play the opposite, so they're going to switch to blue, tear, Zorro, even, comet. All right, you got to get them going through the tempo, and that's one of the first things we do before we go to Indy now, is we're going to go 1s, 2s, 1s, 3s. Which not everybody's going to have, but you get your kids running tempo. I was talking to a high school coach earlier that's what his staff does, and his head coach is here, and that's what they do. They do it on air, and they're going to line up, and they might not run exactly what we run, but they're going to get up and they're going to run trips, veer, and that's what they're going to run all the way down the field. Or they're going to change plays, but they're going to get up, same formation, and run all the way down the field. We do it 4 plays for 40 yards, and that's every 10 yards, and then they finish in the end zone. Here's the key. This is where you get them to lock in and not just go through the motions. Up, downs. I'm a fan favorite of doing stuff like this because then it locks them into attention. Is if there's a false start, a misstep, laziness, not finishing through 10 yards, every one of those is 10 up, downs for the entire group. Left tackle doesn't take his steps properly, all 4 plays, that's 40 up, downs. Got to stick to it though. Ours, we had up, downs every group for the first week and a half as they didn't want to do it. I don't think we had an up down until like one time for 10 in bowl week. And it might have been the first practice back. Because they bought in and they started doing it and counting it every time.